We're back again to do another review of the year. 1994 has now finished on Drama Channel repeats in the UK. So we're here to sum it up. Busy year.
Really good year. Mm-hmm. I think I've said that a lot. At the beginning of every classic, I think since 1990, I've gone, really good year. And this is no exception. Yet another good year. The early 90s was a good time had by all. It was a vintage year. It was a bottle of very expensive champagne.
It was. And it was the year where the show went to 3 episodes.
Yes, which you think would ruin it.
It didn't.
But it didn't.
No, and what they did, they brought in loads of new characters basically to fill out the time. So everyone still acts or has the same workload, but it's spread out. So we had Natalie arrive and Jacksons and all that took their stage.
The Jacksons became more frontline. So they were introduced at the end of 93.
To get ready for the increase.
In 94, they were then thrown in full throttle. And weren't they thrown in full throttle?
Good year for them, the Brannings.
It's made my opinion...
Pre-Max Branning.
Well, it's made my opinion change on Carol. Because I think you're all quite aware that when I was doing a tier list a little while back, I said that Carol Branning was a bit of a mare character for me. Something that not someone I can relate to. And I forgot about her quite wonderful stint in the 90s. And 1994 is just basically made me put my hands up, admit my guilt and shame. Wrong. And I was wrong. Carol Jackson.
One of the best actresses.
A tremendous actress. There was a scene when she was spending too much money using credit cards and she was down and she was talking to her husband, Alan, and it was just a wonderful scene. And, you know, at that moment, I was broke. I was like, this is pinnacle. I'm wrong. And I put my hands up. And I'm not afraid of admitting when I'm wrong. And I was on this occasion.
No, I mean, she's very good because she's good. I think a few people said this. She's one of the actresses who she puts in 100% effort if she's a background character ordering a drink at the bar. At the same time, she puts the exact same effort into when she has a massive, huge storyline.
When she's on screen, my eyes look for her. Do you know what I mean? When there's a scene, even if she's not at the front of the scene or if there's nothing to do with her, I'm always looking for her.
And her acting legacy. You know, she was, Bianca was around her growing up.
Yeah.
She's a good actress. Sonia was around her. She's a good actress. Because Bianca learnt from the actress of one who plays Carol. Tiffany is now a good actress.
Yes.
So it's all a knock-on effect.
What happened to Bex?
All these kids. Oh, Bex was at the writing letters.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a mistake, but the writing.
Pauline Fowler. So no, very good. And it was a big year for them because it was like a Branning Butcher rivalry because Bianca and Ricky slowly got together throughout the year. Slow burn.
But they were against it from the set off because we found out really early on as well that David is Bianca's father.
Just casually as well.
So
just
we
casually
know.
Threw it out there for us.
Yeah, and we knew this at the beginning of the year. And this is, we talk about this all the time, slow burners, stories that can go on and on and on and on. And then there's a big revelation at the end, which makes it even more impactful because we've known the secret for such a long time. We know that next year is the reveal to Bianca for this. But you know, we've known this for a year now, and it's always been bubbling under the environment of this tension between the Brannings and the Butchers
and the Wicks
yeah. And it's so great seeing Pat, and she has Pat and Carol's slagging matches are epic. I mean, the insults they throw at each other are just fantastic.
There is one where she said to Carol, "You've had more traffic through you than the Blackwall Tunnel," which was my personal favourite.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Pat,
yeah,
you got to be a slag.
I mean, Glass Houses comes to mind, but you know what? Pat had every right to say it.
So we had a great year, and they had like a Christmas episode together as well, where they had like an awkward meal, and it was just throughout the year amazing.
And David's been looking after Bianca as well because she moved out after her feud with Carol, her mum.
Yeah,
and she's
doing it on her own.
She's doing it on her own, but she's not doing it on her own because David's basically paying her way for her by giving the rent every month to
lovely Sanjay,
the beautiful Sanjay.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, Sanjay, he had the affair sort of reveal with Geeta's sister, which seems like ages ago because so much has happened this year, which was another shock and a surprise because you thought it was Michelle at one point because they were doing driving lessons together.
Michelle was having driving lessons, and but my big shock and surprise, but it really shouldn't have been, was just how great Sanjay is without a top on.
For God's sake.
I mean, let's just go there for a second, shall we? Let's discuss Sanjay.
They do that quite often with Sanjay.
He's a good-looking guy.
I mean, Geeta is just using him just for sex because it's so good.
Which is fantastic, yeah. Because we're jumping right ahead now because they've been having this relationship where it's a business relationship between them. They both realise that they work well together in the business sense. So they keep the market store open. They're making good money. They're making decisions together.
And she punished him for the affair, she punished him for months and months and months. And even when he thought he'd won her back, she was like, no, I'm just using you for your body.
Yeah.
Get out my flat.
I mean, who wouldn't? Let's be honest.
We can all relate.
I can relate, big time. But Sanjay is keeping a secret from her again, because not only is David Wicks paying for Bianca and Ricky's bedsit rent, but Ricky's now paying for it too. And Sanjay's using the excess money that he's earning by gambling again. So he's starting his gambling
He
addiction
keeps winning,
again.
though, doesn't he? So
Yeah, but on random luck as well. Like, he just asks me, what's your favourite colour? Blue. Oh, I'll go red. And he just dropped a pen on a piece of paper. But yeah, he has very good luck.
I mean, while we're talking about the bedsits, obviously Sanjay's got these bedsits because he's looking after them for his mate Tricky Dicky, who we said goodbye to this year.
I don't know how I feel about him leaving, because when he was on screen, I really hated him, despised him. But then
But you're meant to.
That's exactly it. And that's what made him such a great character.
He was quite a good villain.
He was an
because he really didn't give a crap what anyone said to him or what he said to people. He really didn't care, did he? Which he was quite unique in that way. He wasn't like a corny villain.
No, and he was a user as well. Like, he would use women without even without a regard of their...
Use anyone.
He really would. Well, he used Bianca. He used Kathy.
Yeah.
He was trying it on with Natalie, I think, at one point as well. Cindy, yeah. Although Cindy was receptive to it. And a bit later on, we'll talk about another story. Yet again, Cindy up to her old tricks again. But Tricky Dicky...
She's really one note, isn't she, old Cindy?
Really
basically an affair machine.
Yeah, but because of the affair that Cindy admitted to Ian, but kind of made out that he was kind of pursuing her rather than her pursuing him, which wasn't strictly true, but could be tainted, I suppose, one way or another.
Yeah.
Ian had a huge vendetta against Tricky Dicky.
He got rid of him in the end, didn't he?
He did. Well, he found out
some investigating.
Yeah, but he went to the council where he used to work, did a bit of delving, a bit of digging, and he found out that he had tricked the council out of money, if I remember rightly.
Something like that.
Or a building company.
There was a guy he owed money to as well who was after him, and Ian basically said, this guy's coming for you, so...
Yeah, you better go. And
he did.
It's the first time we saw...
The Weasel.
We saw Richard actually looking genuinely worried and frightened, because he always had the upper hand. Even when they got the council against him in Walford, he still was able to talk his way out of it with the press and, swerve and duck and dive his way out of trouble. But this one he couldn't. This one was too big for even him to control.
Who else did we say goodbye to? Frank.
Oh, that was
lovely.
sad.
Mike Reed, sadly, decided to leave the show.
I mean,
how dare he?
I love Frank, the character of Frank, but I think the reason he left did kill Frank a little bit, and it made his lovable, cheeky, chappy kind of persona. It almost struck it off straight away, and I think it was the right move, and it was the right story to get him to leave, because I think it was associated with the breakdown of sorts.
Plus, Mike Reed, he famously openly says he hates how much misery Frank goes through. And he returned then for Tiffany to run over Tiffany, and that broke Mike Reed again, so they had to sort of be like, oh no, there will be some good for Frank's coming up, promise. But even with Frank going, they still had Pat, they had David, they had Ricky. The family unit was still there. Janine popped up 3 times in the year.
Yeah, strange Janine, whose parents don't seem to have the same lineage as herself.
Very odd.
Again, I think we discussed this in the 93 review, but she's Greek descent.
Very odd
the
casting.
actress. But Frank and his wife didn't show any signs of being...
Or Ricky and Diane.
No, and also true.
But Diane came back?
Diane came back because Frank went to visit Diane in France, not in the best of states, and Diane had discovered the secret. Frank had revealed the secret to Diane that it was Phil that had torched the car lot.
Insurance claims. Lots of insurance claims this year, because Ian Bill was after money from everyone with his weird empire.
Oh, I forgot about that. His IBS, irritable Bill syndrome.
So at
loan shark.
At one point there was 4 storylines which were all the same, where people owed money and they were trying to get insurance, because Nigel did it too, didn't he? His fake insurance fraud, and Grant and Frank. So there was a bit of an odd pacing in the year, because there was 4 affairs at one point, and then they all got revealed, and then there was 4 I loan money insurance storylines.
It all happened at once. I mean, it was associated with the recession of the time, because there was a big recession under John Major, the Prime Minister at the time. They salute him. But
because Nigel owed money. There was a few months where I didn't like Nigel. I think we both said he was a bit annoying, because he owed money to Ian, but then went ahead and arranged this huge wedding, street party wedding, and borrowed more money.
Yeah, without any consideration. And because he had the Mitchell brothers behind him, on his side, then Ian couldn't really do much about it. Which seemed, don't get me wrong, Ian Beale is a difficult character to feel sorry for. But at the same time, I did feel like he was being treated quite unfairly with his IBS company.
Didn't take him seriously.
No.
But the wedding, Debbie and Nigel's wedding, was the 1,000th episode. Spectacular.
Yes.
Which wasn't as good as Pat and Frank's, let's be honest.
Well,
but
it
was quite good.
No high kicking by Ethel. That's all I have to say.
That's true. I mean, Ethel and Dr. Legg did appear in the background, I think.
They get wheeled in now for the seasonal episodes. They were wheeled in for the Christmas episode. I think they were wheeled in for the 1,000th episode as well. Ethel did turn up for the wedding.
Yeah.
It was for the reception at the end when the police officers, because Tricky Dicky again had made a complaint because they had the party spilled out onto the street.
The police officers joined in and danced.
Yeah. They were like, "Have you got a pint? I'll have one, please." So
Mrs. Cotton sent her loves, but she had the flu, so she couldn't come.
Oh yeah, because Nigel was staying with Dot, wasn't he? Oh, I missed Dot. This was the first full year without Dot, wasn't it? Still doesn't feel right without Dot.
Nah, it's all right. Got Nellie. She's a bit of a roller coaster of a character.
Nellie's a really tricky character to really feel any kind of remorse or any feeling toward, I'll be honest with you.
She's like Lou Bill, but a bit wet. A wet Lou Bill.
Well, Lou Bill,
knew what she wanted.
Had an opinion. That's right, had an opinion, stuck by her guns, and even if it made her unlikable and hated by people, you had to admire the fact that she stuck, and people did admire that she stuck to her ethos in life. Well, with Nellie, she's all kind of like
emotional blackmail.
Yeah, exactly.
It's her game.
Oh, feel sorry for me. Oh, have some money, make you like me. And it was sad when she went to her ex-husband's funeral.
Yeah, there were some good episodes.
Yeah, and you found out that perhaps her husband left her because she was a bit of a difficult person to live with and he didn't really love her and it was more convenient for him, but then he regretted it. So you did feel a little bit.
And the daughter hated her for some reason. But you don't really know why.
At all. It was just completely flown off the handle.
She would just walk in with a tray of drinks and go, "Oh," and then walk off. It's like, "Oh,
yeah, are you still here?
I need to explore this a bit more."
Yeah, well, I don't think we will now. I think that's it because she's now living with Jules, isn't she? And becoming the bane of Jules' life. I feel really sorry for Jules.
Oh, I hate Jules.
I loved the conversation.
She's like a robot.
I know, but I did love the conversation he was having with his girlfriend, I guess.
Who, Blossom?
Yeah, his girlfriend.
I think they're just friends, aren't they?
Well, they've been out a few times. They kissed at the doorstep.
Oh yeah.
And he said, "I like cornflakes for my breakfast, and she likes toast." And it's like, well, just make cornflakes, Jules.
So toast isn't difficult.
Well, but how difficult is it? It's not like Homer Simpson when he pours the cornflakes into the bowl and fire erupts. It's literally just pouring milk.
What is more difficult, cereal or toast?
Let us know. Comment below.
Toast takes a few more steps.
Well, toast is a bit more time consuming because you have to wait for it to pop up. And if you've already made the tea beforehand, then you haven't got something to keep you occupied while you're waiting for the toast. Plus, you can get the dial wrong sometimes.
Yeah, Nellie's probably quite fussy with how toasted her toast is.
I mean, I like my toast a little bit black. I admit it.
No.
I like a bit of burnt on the edges because you get that kind of charcoaly crumble in your mouth. But, Jules might like it a bit more white, a bit more pink, some might say.
Maybe.
A bit more raw.
What else happened this year? We had the lesbian kiss, the first lesbian kiss.
Binny and Della, in front of everyone in the square. And surprisingly, the characters that were most disgusted by were the younger characters.
Homophobic Sharon.
Yes, and that was the biggest shock of all.
The campest woman in Britain doesn't like lesbians, apparently, in 1994.
She just likes the boys, doesn't she? She just likes the boys kissing. The two women, she's out of it.
It was really odd, because when Colin and Barry were a thing, most of the characters were quite accepting, the young ones.
Even Dot.
Yeah, but then when this happened, all of them were being really horrible.
Kathy was being a bit offish about it.
Maybe it's a thing at the time where lesbians weren't as accepted, because still now people say lesbians aren't as accepted as gay men. So maybe they were reflecting that a bit. But what about the characters Binny and Della?
Well, what about them? There's not really much to say about them, is there?
She opened a hair salon where she refuses to do anything.
Right, and she opened it with Steve, who is the biggest wet blanket on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Binny's all right. I quite enjoy Binny. Yeah, she's very strong and
I was going to say, she's barmaid at Vic, and she's actually quite a good character. And I don't mind Della, but she's a bit...
I think it didn't help that Della's introduction to the show was that it was Steve who became almost hunter-like with his affections toward Della, and that he felt like Della was his, and that anyone else, be it another woman, which it was eventually Binny, or another man, it wasn't right. Della was his,
and she never indicated she even liked him, and he was really upset. And like when she said, "Oh, I'm actually a lesbian, I'm gay," and he was like, "Nope, how dare you?
Yeah,
if you go with me, you won't be." And it's like, "Oh, Steve,
I'll change you."
Yeah, and Mark had to kind of tell him, like, no.
Yeah, but Mark wasn't 100% sympathetic either, to be fair.
Idiots, a lot of them.
But, I mean, we don't hear anything about the salon anymore. It's kind of just gone a bit quiet.
Della basically disappears for the last 6 months of the show, so I don't know what happens with her.
But, quickly talking about the hair salon, this links to the extension of the set. Because this year was the first time...
It's 3 episodes a week now.
They need a bigger set. More characters. They need to squeeze them into a bigger set.
Natalie needs to live somewhere.
Yeah, when with her mum. That's a... Sorry, on an off note, now you've said that, Natalie's mum and dad living together but separated and living with their partners in the same house.
And Natalie's quite a damaged character. I never knew that about Natalie, her first stint, but she's very damaged, isn't she? I really like Natalie. She's one of my favourite newcomers.
So do I. And I worry because I have really bad memories of Natalie later on as being quite a tricky character, a little bit I
merged Natalie and Laura Bill together for some reason, and I remember Laura was annoying, so maybe I'm getting a bit crossed wires with them both. I don't know why.
Maybe. But the poor Natalie always seems to go for the guys that have already got a partner. So she likes Phil. She keeps asking Kathy, "How's Phil? How's Phil?" And she sent a card to Phil as well in hospital.
Yeah, she loves them, doesn't she? The taken men.
But now she likes Ricky as well. She's now going for Ricky because Ricky's shown an interest in her after she admitted that the guy that she was dating, in inverted commas, was made up.
Bianca said go for Sanjay, and she was like, "No, he's ugly."
I don't.
So,
just don't.
Natalie, come on.
I mean, Sanjay would have been my first choice.
Sanjay would have had an affair anyway, so she could have done it if she wanted.
Yeah. Although Sanjay's wouldn't have an affair now because he's
a good boy, kind of. Yeah. What about that week of episodes, which was the first week it went to 3 episodes a week, so they did it with a big bang, and Michelle got shot by a sexy psychopath.
Dougie Briggs?
Yes.
Good old Dougie. Dougie who exercises and then doesn't take off his clothes. He just pats himself with a towel underneath his t-shirt. Yeah, Dougie Briggs, yeah.
He was really weird and horrible, but it's strangely attractive, but really creepy.
Well, he was Grant's old army friend, but then Grant couldn't remember him, so we weren't entirely sure. It wasn't really explained whether it was an old friend or
was.
not.
Like Grant said, he turned up to the squad as Grant was leaving, so they knew each other for like a day, but because he was in the squad, they're mates. And it was like, okay. But he was a real psychopath, and he was done for shooting someone in the army or something, wasn't he? But he was on the run. It was something like that, wasn't it? And they worked it out. And
he was a disciplinary in the army, and he didn't turn up for the disciplinary, and so they thought he'd gone missing.
And Grant went out for the night and left Sharon and Michelle with him, and that's when he all went a bit weird and tried to like attack Sharon, and Michelle tried to stop him.
Well, he wanted to steal the money from the Vic, didn't he? But he did it under the ruse of telling Grant that they were going to be stealing money from a bank.
Was it a supermarket?
Oh no, it was a supermarket. Yeah. That's right. And Grant accepted it as well. Yeah. Grant said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'm up for some crime. Let's do it.
As long as no one gets hurt."
Yeah, but he said openly that he would. The security guard's family were being surveillanced and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, but Grant was talking to another old army friend, and it was when he was having a drink with him.
Tells him.
He says, "Oh yeah, that Dougie's a bit of a wrong un. I keep away from him." And he's like, "Uh-oh," and he was running back.
Kidnapped Sharon. Yes. Sharon's escape plan, which I love, was when she asked for a cup of tea while she's being held hostage, and she like tried to come on to him, and then just threw the tea in his face and ran away.
Terribly British. That's the way to do it.
It was amazing, and then Michelle got in the line of fire and ended up with a shotgun bullet through her, which she couldn't tell anyone about, and she was in hospital for ages, but she wouldn't tell her mum why she was in hospital. Yeah.
She kept the secret from the police, just because Sharon is her best friend, and she did it for Sharon. But I bet she regrets that now after what Grant became later on in the year.
Yeah, but he's this horrible Grant.
Grant's a really
you kind of forget
tricky character, isn't he?
He's remembered as this like lovable Mitchell brother, but actually he's quite abusive, like really abusive.
Well, he's abusive to women and men, to no regard whatsoever of their status or whatever. He's just he's a bully. Actually, I think is the word you're looking for. He just kind of bullies people around. He kind of
and he always bullies his way, and he always gets his way. Well, he never gets his comeuppance.
That's not the moral, isn't it? That's not really a moral for kids to watch EastEnders.
Because obviously, 1994, we got to talk about it. Big moment.
Yeah.
Sharongate happened.
It was as good as I remember.
Because Michelle's boyfriend, Jeff, the older, like, her college teacher or whatever he was.
He was his tutor.
She wanted her to interview Sharon for a thing he was doing about real women in growing up in London or something.
In the East End. It was a book he was
And
writing.
who has a better story than Sharon?
Of course.
Do you think he ever wrote that book?
There's
a book somewhere about Sharon somewhere. Sharon Watts and the affair. But they got drunk on like 3 bottles of wine and ended up talking
There was
about,
a lot of alcohol rolling around that night.
About the affair and that Sharon went to go kiss Phil again. And they could have slept together if they wanted, but they didn't. And it was all on tape, which Grant was kind of just listening to, like, as the weeks go on, bit by bit, wasn't he?
It was really tense, though. It was really good. Every time he went out, you just knew there would be a scene of him in the car.
He popped on the podcast, the Michelle and Sharon podcast.
Yeah.
BBC was listening
Sounds.
away, loved it.
Yeah, it was excellent, and the build-up was perfect. Let's be
and
honest.
the aftermath.
Yes.
It went on for 3 months worth of aftermath.
It's still there now, if
Yeah.
you think about it, up until Christmas, because the Christmas Day episode was Sharon she had enough, and she left the Vic after all the abuse and the torment that Grant had given her. So the fallout was months and months. I mean, we don't even get a funeral after someone's death anymore.
I know. And it was Steve McFadden and Letitia Dean. They stayed on, kept working.
Yeah.
They were no holidays.
No
back
pantomime
then.
deals then. Oh no.
But that was just a great year, and Kathy was involved with it. It got us introduced to Barbara Windsor.
Oh,
Peggy was back.
Let's just have a moment, please. Barbara Windsor, first ever time as Peggy on screen. I let out a little wince.
No wig.
I'm sure. No, as well. Jogging bottoms. And a shell suit top, very 90s. She was one bum bag away from, or fanny pack for our American listeners, away from being the ultimate 90s woman. I mean, she's such a different character to what she becomes in 95 as well.
Yeah, she's not quite, like, even the way she's you can tell Barbara Windsor she's holding back. Like, even with her voice, she's a bit of a delicate Peggy.
A rundown,
kind of, isn't she?
A rundown Peggy. She's just divorced or broken up from her partner, who you saw when it was the old Peggy.
Yeah, shoulder pads Peggy.
Yes, and she lives in what it seems like a council house of some sort, or a social house.
Yeah, and it looks like Pat Butcher's decorated it for her.
Yeah. So the taste is already there, and so she's not got that kind of feeling of elitism or like she's better and snobbiness over the whole square just yet. But then I suppose she's not really been introduced to the square. She's only been introduced to a few characters, which is obviously the Mitchells, Kathy and Sharon. Oh, and Michelle, because Michelle visited Phil a couple of times. Let's talk about Phil for a second, how he's just kind of washed his hands of Sharon too.
I know, he when Grant found out and beat him up and put him in hospital for months, he then goes, oh no, he basically blames Sharon for the whole thing. And then Grant's like, oh, okay, we're friends again. It's like, all right, Phil, it does take two, you know.
I mean, he's obviously
he's right, old weasel, isn't he, old Phil?
He really is. He's like completely devoided himself of any blame. It's like not his fault at all. It's like Teflon.
Which is still going on to this day with Dennis.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's always, Phil is devoid of any blame for anything.
So yeah, that's a chink in his armour. But Sharon did leave. She went to go see Ange.
Yes, in America.
Kathy's been quite depressed most of the year.
She has, and
She's
really grumpy
down.
as well. She just kind of, every
Can't
time
be
anyone
bothered.
asks, how are you, Kathy? She's just a bit like, yeah, fine. Just going through the motions. Lovely scene, though, when she found out, it was with Pauline, I think. Again, Sharongate, another fallout from Sharongate. And she just basically said she felt used and like everyone was laughing behind her back and everyone knew this secret, and she found out she was in front of the pub and she was embarrassed. And it was in the cafe when she opened up. I think it was the following day. And that was a really good, again, a really powerful performance.
Yeah, really good monologue, wasn't it?
Gillian Tailforth needs better roles. Give her more. She doesn't need to redub a line in a kitchen whilst in lockdown. She needs a proper role.
And there was this really good scene when her and Michelle became friends again after she took Sharon's side. So yeah, she needs more. She can do it. Right, Cindy, quickly. She's been having another affair.
Yes.
Affair number 3?
Yes, because it was, the first one was with
Simon.
Second one was kind of with Richard.
Yeah.
Richard. And now this one's with
Swimming
lifeguard man.
Yeah, she just started going swimming, basically, with Geeta. Just a bit of girls' time
some
out.
Steam. Because she had up to that point, she had a lot of, again, you could classify it as abuse from Ian.
Yeah.
Ian really turned a bit weird with her and kept blaming her for all of his problems and troubles, and said that she should be this perfect little housewife and she should be at home, and when he gets home, a bath should be run for him, dinner on the table,
kids aslead.
Yeah, beer cracked open, ready for him just to swan in, eat, go to bed and leave for work again.
She was a rundown housewife once. She thought, I'm going to go swimming.
Yep.
And then she came across this nice little lifeguard, like 20-something maybe 19, I don't know.
I think
he was quite
he was
young.
a college student.
Yeah.
Very young.
And she liked teasing him, didn't she, basically? And then she thought, oh no, actually I'm going to go for it. So she turned up and they swam together after closing. And we don't know what happened in that swimming pool, but let's hope there's lots of chlorine.
Well, yeah, let's hope they clean the pool afterwards. And she bought him a Thomas the Tank Engine watch.
Yeah, a little joke.
He likes watches. Yeah.
But he got a bit close for comfort because Geeta kind of started working it out and Cindy didn't like that. And Sanjay saw her getting on dressed up and stuff
after she said she had a migraine, and then her excuse afterwards when Ian came home was, you had a migraine, you said you were going to stay at home all day, and she was, I didn't know what I was doing and I started wandering out the house and I ended up in the West End.
Now I'm getting a migraine again, so stop asking questions.
Yeah, leave me alone. Pat's here looking after the kids, talk to her.
So for someone who has multiple affairs, she's not very good at hiding it, really. She nearly gets caught out all the time, but he found her address and turned up, and that's the last we saw of him.
This is the lifeguard, and she said no, it was a mistake. Yet again, she said it was a mistake. I don't want anything to do with
I'm not bored now. So.
Yeah. He's bought me a holiday, 3 weeks in. It was a holiday home, wasn't it? He bought.
Maybe it was Frank's timeshare.
Oh yeah, that they sold to Pat. Yeah, so she's happy with him, but luckily this is the beginning of a fire brewing between Cindy and David Wicks, because the lifeguard had put a card in the telephone box.
Cindy the slag.
Local slag Cindy, this number, give her a call. David had seen it and then confidentially went up to Cindy and said, I've seen this, but this will be our little secret.
Care of it.
Yeah, tore it
up. I mean, the word slag was used multiple times this year
slag
by Grant.
My favourite word.
The things he was saying to Sharon were just ridiculous. There's one storyline we need to talk about really quickly as well. We're running out of time, but the racism storyline with Geeta and Sanjay.
Yeah, and because it was a local election, wasn't it, at the time, and so a very right-wing group was campaigning to, flush out London of, ethnic cleansing, and it was done so superbly well. It showed the isolation.
The writing was really real.
It showed how the isolation of an ethnic minority is when you're in a community of perhaps a predominantly white community, and where people say, we're not racist, but you need to do more than that. Instead of just saying I'm not racist, you need to fight and go against the people who are campaigning against this ridiculous notion that this country is being ruined because of an ethnic group of some sort. I mean, give Arthur his due. He got everyone rallied round, got a minibus and got everyone to vote, so they didn't get in power.
Yeah, well, that was the really good thing, because all the characters were kind of held accountable for their past, because there were moments when Mark was trying to stand up for Sanjay and he admitted, actually, I used to do things like that. I used to say racist things, but I don't feel like it anymore.
He put graffiti on in 85 episode.
And they actually referenced it.
Yeah.
Was it Dr. Leg?
No, it was the shop.
Oh yeah, the Minute Mark.
He did it with Nick, and he put a racist slur on there.
And then they also brought up when Ricky said something about the Kapoors. He said something about the daughter, didn't he? Because she fancied him. And he said something racist back in 88 or 86. And they brought that up as well. And it was just wow, that's really good that they've actually holding these characters accountable. Because Mark and Ricky are kind of seen as the everyday good guys.
The moral ground on the square.
So the fact that they brought that up, and then Arthur was the man of wisdom, just thinking, I love everyone. Everyone, no time for it in this place.
Arthur, bless him, he's used his fist in the past to defend maybe a child in the pub. Remember that time he whacked his dad out because he smacked his kid because he didn't get the right crisps? So Arthur knows that sometimes there is a need for fists. But he said, not on this occasion. Sometimes power is more powerful with the cross, use of a cross. Remember this, America, when you're voting at the end of this year. The power of a cross. And sometimes that's how you get what you want.
With your vote.
With your vote. And it was so well done. I mean, comparing it to the story
with Keegan,
which was done well.
Fine, yeah.
But there was no reflection. There was no. It was very isolated.
It was just Keegan.
It was just Keegan and Jack and Tiff. But this was the whole community. Everyone was involved. At one point,
and lots of different people were being affected as well. Like Geeta as well, who's getting phone calls. And there was that really good episode where they said, we're going to come to your house tonight. And a few of the people around the square teamed up. There was Steve, there was Saeed, there was Mark. Alan came out to help because Alan said he'd been getting some abuse. So yeah, it was just...
It was a good episode.
Very good.
We must remember when Sanjay made that really powerful speech in the pub where he basically said, you all say that you don't agree with what these people are enforcing, but none of you are standing up and supporting me. And you know, when they came into the pub, I was the one who had to stand up and confront them, and none of you did anything.
Yeah, then stormed out.
Yeah, and good for him. So this is what we say this is what we mean when we say that when you get a story and you want to make an impact, let the whole cast and grow the character
and have the characters react like that's what their characters are, like Mark and Ricky did.
Yeah.
And what Arthur did. That was so in character of them to do what they did. So very well done. Quickly, we also said goodbye to Michelle's lovely flatmate, who got obsessed with Mark last year.
Oh, God, she was annoying.
But she turned up at the graduation for like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And she's now engaged to a nice little posh boy. So
and she's really snotty about it too. Yeah, she's got what she wants. So let her get on with it. And Rachel didn't turn up for Michelle's
I can't remember her name. I know her name, but I can't remember it. But she turned up. But I think Rachel was... Do you think they wanted the actress of Rachel to be there?
They mentioned her a lot.
So they quickly brought her back, the other girl back in, Mark's ex.
God, no, I know.
Oh, what is it? It's something really simple. But the graduation was fun, and Mark found his new girlfriend, Ruth, who was just... She's just a babysitter, basically. She's a bit boring so far. I'm not blown away by her character, Ruth.
Well, she came in to begin with as an interesting character because she had a friend, didn't she, who had died of AIDS?
Oh, yeah, because Mark met her when his friend had died, the guy from a few years ago. But right at the end of the year, we got introduced to 2 more characters who are very familiar.
Hang on, but if we're doing one last goodbye, we must remember the on-screen but played by another actress goodbye of
Hattie,
the beautiful Hattie.
Because Hattie's mum was in it, but not Hattie. She's too busy, so they just saw the back of her head when Steve was obsessed with her as well. But we got introduced to Roy and Barry Evans.
Yes,
which, you know, Roy's a very confident man who wants to date Pat.
Yeah, I mean,
and Barry's a bit of like a
London Cockney lad, isn't he? Yeah, really surprising. And he even threatened David a couple of times, which you would never imagine if you remember Barry from like his last kind of few years on the show. You'd never imagine Barry being like that.
So it's another case of first few months of a character, they're not quite
ironed out
who they
just
are
yet. Yeah, they've not done the creases just yet.
But yeah, lots of introductions this year, and pretty much there's not really a character I can think of that I'm thinking I can't wait till you leave. Like they're all pretty. It's quite a strong cast.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most
Jules.
I don't mind.
He's probably
Jules.
at the bottom of the list, but he's not the worst.
He's not the worst. I mean, he doesn't really do anything that offends me. I mean, I think this may surprise a few people, but I think of the characters that I find a little bit, and I'm going to use the term meh. I find Nigel and Debbie a bit meh. And I'm looking forward to what I know is going to happen next year.
The actress found Debbie Mann. She played her.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't hate... When Nigel was first introduced... Not first introduced, but when Nigel, as we said, had that storyline with the money loan, that... He annoyed me. He doesn't annoy me anymore.
No,
but...
he stood up to Grant, which put him back up again.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. When he had the scene with Grant saying, snap out of it, Phil's your brother, you need to sort out this problem. This is after Sharongate. Yeah, that was fine.
Oh, Robbie. He's meh.
Oh, Robbie.
I forgot about it.
Yeah, he knocked down Michelle's wall. She still hasn't had it built back up
I
yet.
know.
She still goes on about it to this day. I want my wall back, Robbie.
Right, so before we run out of time, the marks
the grade.
Due, the grade.
Yes.
So what are we grading this? What's your grade for 1994?
I feel it was a good year. Mm-hmm. Somewhat of a bit of a ploddier year until the siege with Michelle,
3 episodes,
and then the Sharongate happened.
They were transferring to a new producer in between, so you've got to remember to take that into account.
So that's fine. That's fine. I count that. So I'm going to give it a B.
Ooh, thought it'd be higher than that. I'm going to give it an A.
Oh,
not an A+. Very near, but it's a very good year, and good mix of characters, loads of different storylines. I guess some of them were a bit grouped together too much, like affairs and owing money.
That's what I mean. I felt like it was a bit
the pacing
ploddy.
Was a bit off.
Yeah, it kind of went through the motions, and then when the siege happened, it got its bum kicked again, and then when Sharongate happened, it really revved into gear.
We didn't go to Amsterdam or Spain this year. So.
I mean, that was a crying shame. There was nothing off the square this year.
No, there was one when Pat went to find Frank and David
Oh, Clacton.
went off and they went to
Yeah, it was
Norwich or something like
Clacton.
that. Clacton, that was it.
Clacton.
Yeah.
How dare you?
So
They
there
always
was
get a
that,
Clacton.
and her and Ricky went on the bumper cars together.
I forgot about the bumper cars scene. I mean, for that scene,
A.
A plus plus plus. Yeah, it's on YouTube. If you want to search, just search Pat Butcher on the bumper cars. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's a delight, an absolute delight.
But no very good year. It went increased in episodes, which can harm a show sometimes. But no, it kept it up, kept the
not
pace
on this
going.
occasion. And from the clips I've seen that are coming up in '95, the few clips I've seen here and there, I reckon it's going to be a good '95.
We say goodbye to quite a few original characters next year, so maybe '95 can be seen as the end of the classic-ish, I guess.
A lot of people said the end of the classic era was '88.
Well, yes, let's not remember '89. But there you go. So we'll be back again very soon when we do our review for 1995.
And also every Sunday we're always here when we do our summing up, our roundup of the week. That is EastEnders as it's currently aired on the BBC.
That's right.
So if you watched classic 1994 EastEnders episodes, what were your favourite moments? You can always get in touch with us on YouTube by commenting below, or you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Just go to Walford Weekly Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Bye!